Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I am so elated for my guest tonight because she works in an area of mental health. It is her niche. And when we bumped into each other at the LPCA GA conference this year, we both missed each other's presentation because we were presenting. So I would like to welcome and thank you, Felice Martin, for your yes.
Yes.
And she is a licensed professional counselor, a supervisor of counselors. She is a certified neuroscience coach. So y'all get ready because I'm getting ready to go under her tutelage. We going next level. She's a
Yes.
certified traumatic stress professional, a certified neuro-informed mental health professional, and a trauma-informed neurofeedback training provider. She utilizes the brain to get to the heart of what's going on so we can identify the best healing techniques so that we can reduce the impacts of anxiety and depression. She works with parents and their children, with teens, and they form authentic connections while building relationships that are unconditional, filled with love and respect. She is the founder and CEO of Behavior Health Associates of Georgia. She is known as the Freedom Facilitator. I so love that. Felice has a vision to create a world where children are safe, adults are healed, and they can live a life of spiritual, mental, and physical wholeness.
Yes.
Her mission: to train 1 million mental health professionals to integrate advanced neuroscience into their therapeutic practices, empowering the clients to master their mental health. In addition to her psychotherapist skills, she has presented on various topics. We just were there the other day on your LinkedIn, including parenting, influencing of trauma, the power of belonging, how family matters, emotional regulation, the neuroscience of entrepreneurship, and adding neuroscience to your therapy toolbox. So whenever you're ready, Felice is ready to take all of us as therapists to the next level of the neuro wave of how we get involved and change it. Felice, again, thank you so much for saying yes.
Yes. Yes, yes.
I'm so excited. I was laughing when we ran into each other, and there was a spark that came in me because I was like, I've been wanting to make the right connections with individuals because I'm not the fast one prone to say, go get on medication and things like that. I know that our bodies are self-healing and that we need to tap into those essence. Now, medication, I'm not ruling it out. There are some situations that medications have to come into play. But to know where you are, tell me this: what ignited your interest in neurofeedback and the brain's impact on mental health?
Wow, yes. So let me tell you, and I know we have limited time, but I want to share with you my story. That introduction, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to meet that person. And
That
so
be
you see,
you.
right. And so you see me, right? You see that person, you have that information, but I tell you, it has not always been this way. Okay. Being a licensed professional counselor is actually my second career, and I call it's my calling.
Night.
Right.
It is a calling.
Yes, ma'am. It's a calling. It's a calling for me. And so starting out, I graduated. First of all, I was like, okay, God, are you serious? Like, I have to go back to school to get a master's. I'm trying to, make this thing, quick. And he said, no, this is what you need to do. And so in doing that, there were a few things that God spoke to me. And one of those things is, he said, I'm the great, wonderful counselor. And he also told me, he said, look, don't be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I said, okay, so what does that look like?
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
in our profession, we have to do a certain amount of hours of
Yeah.
supervision, et cetera, et cetera. And one thing I noticed is that an agency that where I was working, there were a lot of children on medication, and
Mhm.
I was just like, okay, what is this about? And let me back up. Even I did my internship or practicum at a psychiatric hospital, and
Oh,
so I
okay.
kept seeing certain diagnoses, medications, et cetera, et cetera. Then when I started going with the children, I'm like, okay, God, like you didn't tell me all this, so what's up with
Right.
that?
Mhm.
Um, and what I did is that I started doing my research and I was learning. I was reading books from people in the pharmaceutical industry. One book was "Are We?" It's called "Drugging Our Children," and it's
Mhm.
yes. And so I read that book and started learning about the brain, and then I started doing trainings. And what
Yeah.
I found is that and it's so easy. I'm not going to say so easy. The thing is that anybody who is any type of licensed mental health professional, they're smart, period.
Period.
Okay. Right. They're
Whether you
smart.
got that PhD behind your name or any of that, you're absolutely 4%.
Yes.
Period.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And so what I learned is that look, okay, we're all smart. And I was taking these trainings, training with the Trauma Research Foundation. Great, 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 smart people,
Mhm.
And so in doing that, I'm just like, this is a lot of information. How am I going to retain this information? What is this all about? And I'm not going to be able to remember it. So I had to ask God to show me a way. And so
Mm.
what God showed me is that we can take this complex information and break it down and make it such that a third grader will understand it. And so
Absolutely.
He's given me that gift to do that. I studied
Mm.
with neuroscientists as well. I'm not trying to be a neuroscientist. I just want to help people, right? And so when
Yeah.
he says you don't be conformed, but you got to transform your mind, what does that look like? Okay, so
Mhm.
okay, so you want me to learn about the brain. All right, I'll do that. Took that, learned about the brain. I love the brain. And when I say my people, I was like, this is what I've been looking for because we can
Mm.
we can give you a pill, we can you know tell you to do this intervention or that intervention, but also God said that when you get an understanding and all of their get an understanding,
Get
so let
understanding.
me understand why this is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's my story. And I've been for the past over 7 years, I've been studying the brain before it
Mm.
became sexy or whatever you want to call it. It's
The
just
newest
like,
fad.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And reading the research and really um gleaning all of the information so that I could be able to share it. And I'm so thankful because even being able to share it with children, helping,
Mhm.
I use different interventions showing them what the brain is, what's going on inside, how, being yelled at, how that impacts the brain, and even being able to share the information with parents. This is what's going on.
Mhm.
Even, we meet parents who are anxious. And so if
Mhm.
they're anxious, then what? Their mirror neurons that's going to transfer to their children.
Exactly.
And this we can call it what we want to call it, but that's what's going on in the brain. We mimic.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so that right there really inspired me to learn because I know that it works. I know
Mhm.
that it
Mhm.
works personally and I
Yeah.
know that it works professionally. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's my mission. And I honestly and truly believe that when I'm able to help other mental health professionals learn
Mhm.
and take this complex information and make it plain and simple,
Mhm.
okay, when I can do that, then that means that they are having legacy impact. They're having
Yes.
generational impact.
Mhm.
When I hear
Mhm.
my clients tell me, look, I was able to teach my child how to breathe. And then when I show
Yes.
people a video of what happens when you're breathing,
Mhm.
then once
Mhm.
you see it, you remember it.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's powerful. And I am so thankful. And the beautiful thing is that I call the brain the great equalizer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what's so
Yes.
amazing to me about your story? I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I
Wow,
wanted to
that's
be a
so cool.
neurosurgeon, and then life happened.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember getting ready to go back to school after I had become a parent in my teens. And I went back to school and I said, I'm too old to go to medical school and all that kind of stuff. And I said, God, what are we doing?
Mhm.
And his words were simple. I didn't call you to physically cut the
Mm.
brain.
Mm.
I called you to help those to understand how to be their authentic self within the image, the mind, and the body and
Yeah.
soul that I've already
Mm.
given them. Everything that
Mm.
they need is
Yes.
already there. So your
Yes.
cutting is
Yes.
going to be pulling away of the trauma. Your
Yes.
cutting is going to be pulling away of the experiences that they've had that they no longer have to hold on to. And
Yes.
I kept saying, what do you mean?
Right. What? Excuse me?
And so I've been challenged because you know that I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I've been challenged
Yes.
by people in the church world saying that's against God. It's like you have no
Mhm.
clue
Mhm. Mhm.
how much
Mhm.
anointing is on
Mhm.
our lives for what we've been called to do. So when we
Yes.
met, our kindredness of spirit is
Yes.
what caused us to actually come together and
Yes.
hearing the fullness of your why. What was that ignition to get
Yes.
you to that place? I'm telling you, I say this all the time. There are never any surprises
Yes.
on
Absolutely.
this universe, and to
Absolutely.
hear you say that, it literally has me fired back up again, saying you got to
Yes.
get back to the cutting, you got to get back
Yes.
to this. And so I'm super excited, to gain more understanding and to help the audience to really understand that you are not as stuck
Mhm. Mm.
unless you choose
Mm.
that's
Mhm.
stuck, because you
Mhm.
have a right, even though my mind made me do it, the devil
Yeah.
made me do it, all that
All
kind of
that.
stuff. You literally, and I would like for you to kind of talk to us about that, literally have more control over your thoughts and
Yeah.
how you perceive and change or reframe those when you
Yes.
understand what your brain can do. So can you talk to us about that?
Oh, yes. See, I'm about to start jumping up in here, but I'm gonna try. I'm
We're
a
gonna
little different.
contain
Look,
ourselves.
I am. I'm a little different, and I've showed that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, right? There's
Absolutely.
nobody like me, so I'm good. I'm good with that. And so when we think about, okay, what can I do? How can with those thoughts, even from, oh my goodness. So when we take captive those thoughts,
Mm,
when we take when God, first of all, we have to know the story. Where did that thought come from? Who told you?
yes.
Who told you that you were this, that, and whatever it is, good, bad, or
Mhm.
indifferent? And then
Mhm.
again, if somebody told you, and all of your getting, we're gonna do what? We're gonna get an
Get
understanding. Where
understanding.
did that come from? And so when you think about the beautiful brain, when you think
Mhm.
about this beautiful brain that God gave us, ooh,
Mhm.
when we think about it, okay, so listen. So we think about the brain. Okay, where did that story come from? Where's the threat? The
What's the
threat that
origin?
there's a part of our brain that impacts the threat, and this is so small, that amygdala, we call it the amygdala. That
Mhm.
amygdala is so small. It's so small, but it can create turmoil and war within.
Mm.
Okay? Yes, it can. And so when we understand, if God tells us to cast, we can take that stuff down. We can take captive everything that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. If God said this is what you are, then that's what you are. God didn't
Mhm.
say that's what you are. That's what happened to you, and you created neural pathways. You created a connection with that thing. But you know what? If we see that connection, now we can dismantle that connection, because we can
Yes.
dismantle the connection with the truth of what God said, who God says we are. And so even in therapy, and I love the fact that you mentioned hypnotherapy. I did some training in that, the bilateral hypnotherapy, and
Mhm.
that's not my lane all the way. I
Mhm.
know how to do it. That's
Mhm.
okay. Well, if we got to reach there, we can. But now I don't even have to do it because I can refer to you. So that's a whole nother. You know what I'm saying? So making those connections, and
Mhm.
so even with that, understanding, okay, what is going on? How
Right.
do I work through this thing? What is my
Mhm.
threat? What's the story? What's the
What
story
is
there?
the story? I
Yeah.
tell people, and I know you hadn't heard this part of my life, but I tell people that have issues with parents,
Mm-hmm.
you have to give yourself permission to understand their story.
Yes.
When I was younger, I could tell that there was a difference between me and my siblings and the whole 9 yards. And I said to my mother, we had a conversation in my 30s, and I said to her, "You treat me differently. And I feel like I didn't belong." And she said, "The truth is I didn't want you." I
Okay.
said, "Say what?"
Okay. Wasn't
And
expecting that,
I
but
wasn't
you
expecting
were
it.
ready for it because you asked that question.
Asked the question, and
Yeah.
I said, "Can you tell me why?"
There you go.
And she said, "Your father was so abusive that I
Mm,
knew getting pregnant would make me be stuck." And I
mm.
said, "So it wasn't that you didn't want me, you didn't want the situation."
There you go. There you go.
That is how you learn to reframe
Yes.
that belief of
Yes.
negativity.
Yes.
And that's what I believe that neuroscience helps us do, that
Yes.
biofeedback helps us do, to
Right.
really reframe the messaging. Because the
Right.
other thing that people, and I want you to elaborate on this, people will give you the message that will benefit them the most about your life.
Right. Right.
What's your thoughts about that?
Yes, absolutely. They do because they speak from their lens. They I wear glasses, they
Mhm.
speak from their glasses, right? And
Mhm.
so once we know that, then we what I call them, and we call it those are mental maps.
Mhm.
They
Mm.
have their
Okay.
mental maps, they have their GPS, right? And so
Mhm.
they have that. And they project, they put it on you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then we make it, then as kids or adults, like we can buy into it, and then we have to tear that stuff down. We have to tear it down, and we can say that I can only imagine having that your mom speak, that's her truth,
Mhm.
right?
And
And
it
so
was.
yeah,
Mhm.
and she's responding from that, and
Mhm.
it impacted you in a certain way, and I can only imagine that when you heard that, what those neurons were firing, and then
Mhm.
then it's
Mhm.
just kind of like you understand where she's coming from, and
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
understand her perspective, and then that gives you insight to, okay, so it really wasn't me, it was her stuff. And
Right.
then you can reframe and rewire that story.
Absolutely. But so many people are afraid. I deal with so many clients who are afraid to ask those why questions when they
Hmm.
are experiencing difficulties with their parents, because I hear, "Well, that's my mama." But your mother is still a human
There you go, that
with
part.
her
Yeah,
own experiences that you probably
absolutely.
don't have an idea about.
Right.
Think about what it would be like if your child was having the same experience. Wouldn't you want them to rewire that thought about you?
Yes.
So, and I see the importance of understanding the brain,
Hmm.
helping to reduce things like anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about the science of those reductions?
Yes. So when we think about, let's go with anxiety. How about
Okay.
that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go with anxiety. So anxiety is, future thinking. I'm worried about
Mm-hmm.
these things, and it manifests in certain ways. If you think about anxiety as it relates to PTSD or
Yeah.
trauma, so that anxiety, that shaking is, I hear the door open or I hear footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hearing these, okay, what is my brain telling me? Oh, okay, those footsteps are heavy. All right, that means that
Mm-hmm.
my parent, my significant other, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're angry, they're upset. So I need to act a certain way. So
Mm-hmm.
that is what? That's a threat. That's the
Yeah.
amygdala. The amygdala is So it is right next to. If we do our hand like this, that's
Mm-hmm.
the best way because I don't want to assume that everybody knows. So this we do the hand model, the fist. So we open it up. The
Okay.
amygdala is like our thumbnail, right? And
Isn't
so our
that the peanut,
thumbnail,
the walnut side?
yes, it's like a
Mm-hmm.
walnut. Yeah, right. And
Mm-hmm.
so you see this part would be our hippocampus, the
Mm-hmm.
part of the finger that is on that thumb, that would be the hippocampus, which is our memory. Okay.
Right.
That's the I call it the library. That's the library. It
Mm-hmm.
has all the books, all the memories.
All the
Okay.
memories.
All the memories. And so if I'm hearing these footsteps, then the thinking part of my brain is just like, okay, I need to open up, I got to protect myself. And so when I do
Oof.
that, then I behave a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I may, whatever the habit is, the basal ganglia, the habit of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is, then I'm going to start behaving a certain way. Those are old habits. But when I come to therapy and I get some help and I start working on that, then I'm able to rewire that story.
Yeah, that reminds me of that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Inside Out.
I have not seen number two. I did see
I
number
haven't
one. I
seen
got to see
number
number two.
two yet,
Okay.
so we need to
Yeah.
we need to arrange it so we can go together.
Oh, that'll be so
Um,
cool. Yes.
when you were talking, I was thinking about how joy and sadness
Yeah.
kept bumping
Yeah.
into that spacing of I got to hold on to the old stuff. I can't give myself permission to be sad for a moment because sad is a really, really bad thing.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the connection of the hippocampus and the
Amygdala. There you
amygdala,
go. Mm-hmm.
you understand that there's still in that threading shifting
Yeah.
that can occur to then change
Yes.
how you look at things because at the end
Yes.
of Inside Out, Joy recognized I can't be Joy all the time.
Exactly.
And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with sad. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's performative. So if I'm joy all the
Yeah.
time, that's a trauma response as well. If I'm joy all the time, then nobody's going to be mad at me. Then I belong to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not possible. That's
Exactly.
not possible, you know. And so really being able to understand that and understanding neuroplasticity so we can rewire, we can change, we can grow. And how beautiful is that,
You
knowing
know,
that this beautiful brain that God gave
mm,
us allows us to reinvent, to rewire. Now we don't we and basically the things that happen, it doesn't go away. What goes
right.
away is the way it impacts us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that's really interesting, I noticed this about myself, having a trauma exposure background, having that, I used to cry all the time, all the time, all the time. And so for me, tears represented sadness. And I know some people, they laugh and they cry. And I was like, how does that work? And also what I noticed is that when I stopped crying, I was like, okay, I can tell my story and I'm not crying. It
Mm-hmm.
it
That's
is
when
who
the
I
healing
am.
comes.
Right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
that healing is the rewiring, it's the rewiring. And so when we teach in the work and learning about the brain and how that all works together, and teaching when I teach my clients that, what happens is that they're not stuck in that story. They're empowered by the story because they're empowered because of the rewiring. So now they can tell the story, and it's not what happened. It's not, why did all this happen? Is
Right.
what happened and how do I work through this? And it doesn't have power over me. And it doesn't mean that I'm fake and I'm ignoring it. It means that, yeah, this is what happened. Okay. And this is how I'm rewired. This is the new mental map. So instead of
Exactly.
jumping and jumping when the parent come home or I'm hearing these footsteps, it's just like, you know what? And I don't personalize it. Maybe they had a bad day. That's on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna go run and hide. I'm just gonna, hey, how are you doing? And I'm gonna keep it moving.
Exactly. And when you talk about neuroplasty, I started thinking about the potter's wheel
Mm. Ooh, that's
because
good.
anytime you're on the potter's wheel, even if there's an area of imperfection, all I have to do is press and keep
Yes.
moving to
Yes.
actually change what I need my story to now be
That's good. That's
so
good.
that the presentation of my completion. I don't use the word perfect because that
Oh,
just
yeah.
causes all kind of stuff for people. But the completion of where I am in that stage on the potter's wheel, I've looked for those cracks. I've looked for those
Mhm.
imperfections and rewrote the narrative. So when you talked about that neuroplasticity, I was like, that's our stretching.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And see, just what you said, that's exactly what I teach mental health professionals to do. You use metaphors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Use metaphors.
Absolutely.
So now you can, so you know that there's a pressing, that's the potter's wheel, and you can liken it to that's what happens when neuroplasticity takes place, when we
Absolutely.
rewire. That's all it is. And so now I always say, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So
Can't
now you
unsee
can
it.
relate that to what's going on in the brain. So when people
Mm-hmm.
say, well, I can't do this, I can't change, really? Is
Mm-hmm.
that true?
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
really? Okay, well, let me challenge you. Let me challenge you
That's
with
it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you give them the analogy of the potter's wheel, and then you give them you liken it to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. And so once they have it, then you mentioned earlier, it's a choice. If you choose to go with whatever story you want to go with, but you
Mm-hmm.
choose ye this day. Okay. All right. We have choice. We have
Exactly.
choice.
And I encourage you to
Yeah.
choose life,
There you
to
go.
choose life
Yes.
without sitting in a place of anger and unforgiveness
Yeah.
because you're choosing not to change the story that you were fed, either
Yes.
by action or by experience.
Yes. Exactly.
I shared
Exactly.
with a client the other day, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you keep saying that you can't move forward until someone else validates your story or
Mm.
apologize. And I said,
Hmm.
that's interesting because
Hmm.
that mindset gives them power over you.
There you go.
At
Yeah.
what point do you change how the situation impacts you in the now?
Exactly.
That's that changing of that thread, I believe,
Right.
in
Right.
how you think about things. Because if we keep owning the stuff of the past that we can't go back and change,
Right.
what is that doing for us in the future or in the present?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's very true. And that's looking at the library, that hippocampus,
Mm-hmm.
those stories. Let me look at those stories. What am I holding on? Oh, I'm holding on to this story.
Mm,
And check this out. Let's take it deeper. Okay, so if I hold on to this story, then perhaps I felt powerless, and feeling powerless is a threat
mm,
to me. So if I feel powerless, if I can keep you in prison to the story, and you got to validate me, then I belong when I am holding people to that story.
mm-hmm.
What's up with that?
Well, I ran into some therapists, and that's such a good statement because it reminded me of us having a conversation about forgiveness.
Hmm.
And I shared with them, think about forgiveness as being on the hook with somebody that you don't want to be on the hook with.
Mm.
And this hook is just swinging because it's
Hmm.
taking you back and forth with all these emotions and things of this nature, but you're adamant, I'm not going to forgive.
Yeah.
Well, then you stay on the hook. But the moment that I decide to forgive, I let you off the hook, and it's an easier way for me to release.
Right.
And when you
Exactly.
think of it that way, you have a level of empowerment of changing your brain and deciding,
Exactly.
I don't need to be the victim in this story anymore. I can be the hero in my story.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And listen to this, neuroscience is about the brain and the central nervous system, because when you're holding on to that, you're on that hook, then there's pain. That pain is in your body, right? And so the brain is connected to the spinal cord, and so that it affects the way we think, it affects
Mm-hmm.
that fight, flight, or freeze. It's all connected. And so if I'm holding on, I have control, I have this. Where is that residing in your body?
Whenever there is ease, there's
Yes.
going to be disease.
There you go.
Anytime that you are holding on to things that you feel like you're holding somebody hostage until they apologize or until they validate, you're filling your body up with high blood pressure,
Yeah.
diabetes,
Yes.
migraines,
Yes.
sleep disturbances,
Yes.
anxiety, depression,
Exactly. Exactly.
major depression, complex
Exactly.
PTSD. We can go down the
Yes.
whole list.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
because you decided I need to hold this narrative and I don't want to change my brain's thinking.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, and then you letting all those neurotransmitters run through your body, the hormones that is it, you ask yourself, is it worth it? If this is what you want, then okay, go ahead, hold on to it. Hold on
That
to
is
it.
such a good question. Is it worth it
Yeah.
to go through the journey of healing or to stay in the fog of mess?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good,
That's
Felice. That's
yeah.
good.
Asking those questions. And we know you talk about the ACE, the adverse childhood experience
Mm-hmm.
um questionnaire, that basically the Kaiser doctors in a nutshell said, look, we keep seeing these common physical ailments. And so what they found is that there was a connection between traumas and various physical ailments, even inflammation. When you think
Mm-hmm.
about, people dealing with brain fog, and then again, and I use myself because look, I'm not, again, you see me and I'm learning, and it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's awesome. But no, inflammation, that's trauma
Yes.
related. So listen, it dawned on me like, okay, if there's inflammation in my body,
Mm-hmm.
listen, if there's inflammation in my body, then there's inflammation in my brain. I can't think
Ooh.
straight.
Mm-hmm.
Because we
Mm-hmm.
say, I can't think straight. What's going on? Okay, where's the stress? What's going on here?
Mhm, mhm,
So
mhm.
so that's the work. That's the work
Yeah.
when we're able to really, when people, we talk about taking care of our temple, you know, that's a part of it.
Yeah,
That's a part of it.
absolutely.
And we have a responsibility and we have choices.
We
No,
have a
if there's,
responsibility to ourselves. We owe
yes,
us to
exactly.
decide that we no longer want to sit in the past
Right.
experiences that we had no control over. When you
Exactly.
can, I believe that when you grab hold to the understanding that the things that happened to you, especially at a time where you were defenseless because
Mm-hmm.
you were too young,
Mm-hmm.
when we grab hold to the fact that I couldn't control
Mm-hmm.
that, but I can
Mm-hmm.
control now, healing is
Mm-hmm.
going to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 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 It's very important.
Oh,
It's very
yeah.
important. And again, it goes back to what? The hippocampus, that
Yeah.
library, those stories.
Hmm. How
Okay.
do you think neuroscientific measures, and I think I know the answer to this, will
Mm-hmm.
assist those that get stuck in their younger child self?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do I think? It's the stories, the hippocampus.
Hmm.
What am I? It's the stories along with the habits, the threats. And that's what I teach people to do as well. Look, let's go back. Let's see. We're not going to stay there. Let's
Hmm.
look. And I know you can understand as a hypnotherapist. It's like, let's meet that part of
Hmm.
myself that was hurt. What does that part of myself
Yeah.
need? You know, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I have a client, she was fighting because I said, I need you to write a letter to the parent that hurt you, but I
Hmm.
need it to be from your 5-year old self.
There you go. I
And she
love it.
said, well, it's going to be the same as my right now self. I said, no, your
Hmm.
5-year old self hadn't had a voice. Give her
Hmm.
a voice.
Yes.
She's going to say some things that you probably didn't know she needed to say. And
Yes.
oftentimes people think, well, that's pretty strange. Listen,
Mhm.
you explained it so well about the hippocampus being the library. It
Mhm.
holds the book of experiences.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
have to decide, am I going to check this experience out and rewrite it? Or am I going to leave it on the
Mm.
shelf in the
Mm.
same manner, in the same tact, and expect something different.
Yes. Say that again. Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Listen, I
Yes.
mean, we
Yes.
got to be willing to understand the why.
Mhm.
You said it at the very top of the hour
Right.
that we have to understand the origin
Mhm.
of behavior.
Mhm.
We have to understand the origin of our thoughts.
Oh,
How
yeah.
did you get that thought? Oftentimes, when I'm working with couples and they're having difficulties, and I'll stop and say, "Well, who taught you how to be in a relationship, and what did you
Mm.
learn?"
Right.
Well,
Right.
I didn't really have an example. So how did you know how you believe you're supposed to understand a relationship to be? Because somewhere you formed a
Right.
thought
Right.
thinking that that's what it was. And so I could see, oh my goodness, I can see how neurofeedback, how neurodevelopment and understanding can really catapult us into the next levels of healing.
Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. It
Yeah.
can definitely do that. Definitely it's the great equalizer when we understand that attunement, that a connection, when we under even attachment theories,
Yeah.
attachment interventions,
Yeah.
we have to think, how did I attach? How was that oxytocin? How were those bonding chemicals
Mm,
moving throughout my body? Was my parents, were they, or my mom, was she stressed when she was pregnant with
right.
me? So all of that stuff really does matter. And once
Hmm.
again, once you get you all you're get an understanding, then it will catapult the way we heal. It really
Yeah.
will create a level of transformation that it gives our clients the power to understand that they are powerful and they do have
Yes.
choices. Let me share one. This was a story, and I was talking to my cousin. This was some
Hmm.
years ago, and so he was talking to me. He's like, "Felice, you remember when Michael came to the to Aunt Eunice's house?" And I was like,
Hmm.
and this is, now I'm going to tell you a story, and I have proof for it now. And I don't share this story often because it's like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, it's very true. So
Hmm.
he was like, Felice, you remember when Michael Jackson was at Aunt Eunice's house? I was like,
Hmm.
uh what? We came over to get y'all so we can go see Michael. I was like, he was there. I was like, and I probably was maybe 4 or 5. I said, no, I actually thought that was my daddy at Aunt Eunice's house. And I was really sad because he was tired. And
Mm.
he didn't want the kids to come in because he was tired. And they came out and said, oh, well, he's tired and, he wants to get some sleep. And for almost 45 years, I thought that was my daddy rejecting me. And so I had this mindset
Mm.
of rejection. That was my story. And that
Wow.
was not the case. And so it was so beautiful when I told my dad. He was like, what, girl? We were talking. He was like, for real? I said, yeah, all this time I thought that there was something wrong with me. So my narrative began,
Mm.
that was a threat. Rejection is a threat. So if rejection is a
Yes.
threat, then I'm going to do what I need to do to fit in, to be accepted.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we just
Hmm.
keep, those were mental maps. And I tell you, in that conversation, boom, I was good. I was like, man, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for
Because
telling me
when
that.
you know the truth,
Yes.
the opening, the freedom, like you said, you are the freedom facilitator. Because
Yes.
I can get you to a place
Yes.
where we can tap into the origin
Yes.
and you can get free from the
Yes.
negative thoughts that have dictated how
Yes.
you function.
Absolutely.
Man, that's good.
Girl, I just that's beautiful,
Listen,
isn't it? It's
it
it's it's a beautiful
is.
thing, I tell you. That is freedom. That is freedom. And you know what? You can decide what you want to do with it.
You can choose your level of freedom.
Yes.
This
And I
was
want to
so
be
good.
all the way free.
all the way.
all the way
I don't
free.
want no shackles
At all.
nowhere
At
on
all.
me.
At all.
Forgiveness is huge for me. Boundaries are
Yes.
huge for me.
Yes.
Rechanging my narrative is
Yes.
huge for me
Yes.
because that is where my freedom sits.
Yes.
No longer put myself in a place, and I hope someone in the audience understands you don't have to be stuck in the story that somebody told you about you.
Exactly. And let me say this. I have to say this, Marcia, because a lot of times that's what I start with. Right now, we're speaking from a place of healing, but it wasn't always like
It
this.
was not
And,
always like this.
yeah. And so when as clinicians, when we hold space, you know, when we hold space for our personal healing and the healing of our
Mm-hmm.
clients is so beautiful because
It
it's not from
is.
judgment. It's saying, hey, look, it's that great crowd of witnesses. It's like, come on, you got this. You got this.
Exactly.
I'm on this side, but trust and believe I was on that side too. I'm not better
Mm-hmm.
than I just decided to.
I made some decisions. When I
Yeah.
tell people that I struggled with self-esteem issues when I
Yeah.
was younger, and they was like, no, you didn't. And I have high school friends that say, that's not true. I was like, no, I was an athlete. I was pretty smart, but
Yeah.
I struggled with my esteem
Yes.
because I misinterpreted the word big. I was wearing a size
Mm.
4,
Mm-hmm.
big for my height because I was taller than everybody else. I
Yes.
misinterpret the word big as broad
Yes.
versus height. And for
Yes.
years,
Yep.
I carried the weight of that. I
Yes.
did. And so
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. The part of the conversation that you all are hearing from us tonight is because we've journeyed through
Yes.
impact of healing. And you can actually experience that as well. You can choose to change the narrative. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is
Yeah.
not dimming a light on any other therapist. All therapists can't get you there because they hadn't
Mhm.
been trained to get you there.
Say
All
that one more
therapists
time,
aren't trained.
please. Please
Yeah,
say that one more time.
absolutely.
Okay.
All therapists can't get you there because they
Yes.
have not been trained.
Yes.
I am a certified trauma specialist. That is
Yes.
my niche. That is
Yes.
where I live. That is where
Yes.
my breakthroughs are with my clients.
Yes.
I love breaking the stronghold of trauma.
Yes. There you go.
You have to understand just because you worked with a therapist and you got to this point and you felt like there was nothing more, that wasn't the end of your story.
There you go. Ooh,
There
yes.
are plenty of trained therapists that can help you get to the next level. Because I love when clients come to me and say, I already worked through my trauma.
Right.
Until they get to that second session with me,
Yes.
and here comes the
Yes.
snot and the tears.
Yes.
And I thought I
Yes.
was done with this. You
Yes.
wouldn't have been done. You would have
Right.
been done if we never
Yeah.
had to have this conversation. Because I didn't
Right.
ask you about that trauma. You brought
Right.
that to
Right.
me.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so I just would like, if you could encourage those in the audience that's listening to this episode on the importance of embracing your healing, what would you say to them?
I would, like you said, embrace your healing and know that it's a journey. It truly
Mhm.
is a journey. And there's nothing wrong with it. Life is a journey. It's a journey of discovery. So embrace it.
Yeah.
And even, there will be things, when you're on a journey, you may have some sticks in the
Mhm.
road. You may
Mhm.
have some logs in the road. There will be different barriers there. And so you decide, am I going to push this through? Am I going to pick it up and break it? Am I going to walk
Mhm.
around it? Am I going to go under it?
Mhm.
Whatever I do, I am going through because what is Fannie Lou Hamer? What she say? When you sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Sick
I
and
hope
tired.
that's yes. Then you make a decision,
Yes.
and
Then you
it's
make a
all
decision.
good. And when you're ready, your people, your person that you are assigned to, that is assigned to help you, will be
That's
there.
it. And
Will be there.
I would just add on to that, on the other side of through and
Yes.
tired is
Yes.
healing.
Amen. That's good.
And so I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to get together so you and I can go see Inside Out
Yes, I'd love to.
together.
Yes.
But thank you so much. I know our days get busy. I really honestly appreciate you coming in tonight and really sharing the importance of understanding the brain,
Mhm.
how you can actually rewire that threading so you
Yes.
don't have to keep living in that same story. So if you're
Yes.
going to find or talk to Felice, hit up her website. Can you
Yes.
give that website to me?
I sure can. It is B as in boy, H as in happy, A as in apple, counseling.com. That's BHA counseling.com. You can also find me on all social media platforms as Felice Martin, LPC. So reach out. And I honestly and truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. This is why I was put on this earth to do this work.
Yes. When you know the anointing and the purpose of your life, when I see therapists burning out, because you missed the anointing, you need to
Hmm.
go back and tap into that. To our
Right.
therapists that are listening, listen, if you want to gain knowledge, understanding, and skills that you can utilize in therapy, please, please, please reach out to Felice. I'm going to come under her tutelage because I
Yes.
want to glean all of the information that I can because I know with the combination of therapy, hypnotherapy, neuroscience
Yes.
in therapy, and feedback, more and more people can heal. I'm on a mission with you to get that million therapists trained in neuroscience,
Yes.
neurofeedback, and understanding because I think that your anointing flows through,
Mm.
and when you know that you know that you know that this is a healing journey calling on our lives to change lives. I got the chills. I'm gonna stop because
Yes.
I'll keep going. But I really want to say I thank God for crossing our path. There's never a mistake that's on this planet. And I want
Absolutely.
to say thank you so much for your yes. This
Yes.
episode will be releasing in a couple of days.
Ah, I'm so
And I'm
excited.
excited to
Yes.
see how lives are going to change. So
Yes.
until then, don't forget to like, share, comment, and give us some feedback. And
Yes.
Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, check out Felice on
Yes.
all social media handles, Felice Martin, LPC. So that way you can tap into everything. She'll be tagged on everything, but listen, don't miss the opportunity to have your brain rewired and your healing from trauma to expand your life. Y'all take good
Yes.
care, and we'll see you on another episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Thank you for listening to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Only up on your favorite streaming app.